Thank you. So we're going to throw you a curveball. This is intended to be a face-to-face meeting, right? We're all here. But there's a couple of individuals that we felt like it was really important to hear their perspectives. And not only their perspectives individually, but their perspectives from the organizations that they represent in the fleet business and commercial vehicle business. And so, historically, Genevieve talked a lot about passenger vehicles, about IVI systems, and of course there was applications in other contexts. But this Cavisa organization has got a pretty broad remit. It may be reusing technology and approaches in a variety of sort of non-passenger related applications and industries. And so that's why we wanted this next session to be about the future business models for commercial vehicles and transportation services. And hopefully we are bringing in a couple of gentlemen virtually. We have thumbs up in the back. And so let's get them up on the screen. Hi, Todd, do you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, super. Let me just briefly introduce Todd. Todd is the Director of Keystone OEM and Fleet Business for Irdeto. And well, let me go ahead and finish the introduction here, and then hopefully we'll work out the issues in the meantime. So the fleet industry is changing rapidly because of increased connectivity and the availability of more vehicle data. And many believe the future of passenger vehicles will reflect more of how fleets operate today than today's personal ownership model. This panel will explore coming shifts in the industry, areas of commonality between commercial vehicle and fleet and passenger vehicles, and how common solutions can fill the gaps, resulting in a more efficient and sustainable future. And so, Todd, I hope you're hearing us now.
Okay, great to be with everybody virtually. I wish I was there in person. It's good to see conferences going again. I do have a colleague from Irdeto Connected Transport that is out of Germany in Hoofddorp. His name's Christian Overcourt. Christian is there in the room, I believe, so if you guys, anybody there gets a chance to buy him a beer for me later, at the end of the day, that'd be great. I haven't seen him in probably 2.5 years. So briefly, we'll go through my background and kind of a little bit on my interest in this area at Irdeto and my history. I've been in automotive and technology for over 30 years. I've been with Irdeto for the last 5 years in different roles of Director of Business Development, Global Head of Sales, and currently manage the Keystone for Fleet and OEM business line. Early in my career, I worked at General Dynamics and General Motors on OnStar when it was born. So I know some of the earlier sessions were talking about connectivity and telematics and how long they've been around. So that kind of dates myself, but I was there for the early days of the integration and development of that and saw it evolve. And, initially it was a lot of interest in the safety security solutions out there for their customers, especially GM OnStar. And then data became what took over, as we all know, and it's definitely making a move into commercial vehicle space. Born and raised in Detroit, talking to you now from West Bloomfield, Michigan. Went to Lawrence Tech University. Have enjoyed a great career of different roles at different automotive companies, and really enjoying the challenges and the new space we're going into here at Irdeto. Who we are, if you're not familiar with us, we are a world leader in digital security. We protect platforms and applications for video entertainment, video games, and connected industries, including connected transport. Our vision is to empower a secure world where people can connect with confidence. So we do a lot of embedded core software security for video entertainment, connected vehicles, healthcare, manufacturing, a lot of different industries. And we have a long history of over 50 years. Our company was founded by a Dutch engineer in 1969. So we're going on 53 years here this year. So we play in a lot of different spaces and are very diverse, mostly engineers with customer and sales support teams in all of the regions. So talk a little bit for a second just about connected transport and kind of my history and it relates to how I got here as Irdeto decided to branch into this space 5 years ago. I had been working at Continental for many years in business development and resident engineering management for Ford, GM, and Chrysler, and enjoyed that role for a long time, but was ready for something different. And this definitely, being part of the connected vehicle and connectivity and all the changes that happened, cybersecurity was the next big forefront. So it's been a fun journey thus far. From that, within our connected transport group, we have different segments, and the one I'm focused on now is the Keystone for Fleet and Aftermarket and OEM. But we do cyber and also construction equipment. So we're playing in a lot of different areas where digital sharing of a digital protected key and cybersecurity are important as we evolve into new business models in the industry. And that's it for my intro. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Let's see if we can bring on Ted. Ted Gill Ted Gill, excuse me, his last name. Ted has a rich history in W3C and has recently gone to work for Geotab as the Director of Standards. He has been very instrumental in the CVII work that Geneva, now Covisa, has worked with W3C on, and now he's representative of Geotab and the work that they're doing there. And so hopefully we can bring Ted in. There he is. And so Ted, if you can hear us, please give your introduction and we'll go from there.
I wanted to give a brief background about myself and Geotab. Geotab is a telematics service provider. We provide services to commercial and government fleets. Geotab was founded in 2000. So it dates back, almost the GM days as far as connecting vehicles. But instead of being factory fit, at the time when they roll off the assembly line, we do a retrofit. And we also have to reverse engineer across all major and even quite a few minor manufacturers, all their year makes and models, and in order to make be able to extract data and make meaning from it, have various types of interactions with vehicles as well. We have about 2,200 employees at present. We connect over 2.7 million vehicles, adjusting over 50 billion data points per day. So we understand very well the potential of connected vehicles and helping to realize that for quite a few of our customers. We are strongly interested in open platforms. As I mentioned, we have to reverse engineer, so it'll be and bring our own hardware into the vehicles. Whereas we would love to see an open platform, open data models to become established across the industry, so that we can focus on our core business instead of trying to do the initial lift to get started. We participate in multiple trade and industry and standards associations in the industry. As I mentioned, we already very well understand the challenges in the industry. We've been opening patents and algorithms to contribute back. We are also providing open source and contributing to standards, Covisa, W3C, SAE, among others. We also, Geotab is not a direct seller. We don't sell to any of the fleets directly. We have a big network of resellers. We have a large network of partners. We leverage their APIs and provide our own. Our hardware itself that goes in the vehicles is extensible. There's ways for third parties that we vet to be able to extend our capabilities, leverage the connectivity and data to the vehicle and also out to the cloud. We make strong use of the data not only for the individual fleets, but on the large scale. And we do so in a manner to protect privacy. So instead of revealing any individual vehicle data, we aggregate it. And from that, we can derive tremendous insights that our fleets can benefit from, not just insights from their vehicles, but the larger 2.7 million. Make it available to power utilities, urban planners, and so forth. About myself, I joined Geotab in May of 2020. I'm the Connectivity Standards Lead, which is a mix of standards, strategy, and partner engagement. I am co-chair of the WC Automotive Working Group, active, as Steve mentioned, in the COVISA Common Vehicle Interface Initiative. Prior to coming on to Geotab, I spent 21 years at MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Labs. The vast majority of that time was head of IT for the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, who is part of this this initiative of COVISA's. And the last 8 years I've been involved in connected vehicle standards and also been doing cybersecurity research. I think I'll pause there and we go back to the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Ted. So we have both on now, I think. Do we have both on? Well, let's just go ahead with our first question here, and either one of you can answer the question. As I mentioned in the introduction, the commercial vehicle and fleet industry landscape is changing rapidly because of connectivity and the availability of more vehicle data. In what ways have your organization seen these shifts over the past months and years? Can you give examples? Can you give the audience a flavor for how the landscape in the fleet and CV industry is changing?
Sure, I'll take that first and Ted second in this one. Since joining Irdeto, and then our focus really in the digital key and cybersecurity space for fleets, commercial fleets, we started attending, the ATAs and TMCs, the shows in that space, which really made it clear that there was a big growth. It was still early days, but there was a big growth in interest. I think ELD, when it became a mandate in 2019, really changed the industry. It created awareness for a lot of fleet commercial vehicle companies that hadn't thought much about it. They were just doing things the way they had been doing them for a while. The OEMs were already looking for ways to find value and increase productivity through real-time diagnostics and predictive maintenance, because telematics obviously did exist in automotive and it was getting brought into commercial vehicle space. But the ELD mandate really was one of the big catalysts that made it more widespread. Everybody was scrambling to meet it. And then once they did it, they started putting all these aftermarket electronics onto their vehicles, and they started asking, what else can we do with this? So, for example, if you look at other industries like iPhone apps and of course OEMs like GM OnStar and Ford Sync, they showed that it can be done and that there's value to it. So I think the industry started to adopt it at a much faster pace than it otherwise would have. In the past, the big data wasn't really in focus. Fuel consumption, driver wages, which I think we're seeing that challenge today in the environment that we're in. But I think there is definitely a desire by the OEMs with input from the fleet customers and also suppliers like ourselves and Geotab to try to monetize it and try to help solve problems and create a more efficient operation. That's a win-win-win. It's a different environment and a different market, but there's lots of problems that can be solved and improved upon, which result in saving money through gained efficiencies in connected vehicles.
I'll add on to Todd's response. So first of all, we're elated to see that standards are starting to get, especially COVISA, Vehicle Signal Specification, VSS, getting some substantial uptake in the industry with cloud providers, OEMs, service providers. That is great because it's been slow going, so it's great to see that getting started. We are, as Todd mentioned, we're also helping our customers become more efficient, making more use of information to run their businesses more economically. We more than pay for ourselves as far as our cost of our services compared to fuel savings, hours, insurance, all sorts of things sort of across the board. We're also seeing an increase in expectations that often exceed what OEMs are providing, especially in a mixed fleet environment. Times we have to do the lift ourselves, similar to Irdeto, in order to provide solutions that just don't exist there. People want to have common solutions across fleets. They don't have to have mixed capabilities and different APIs across them. So there's a strong need for standards. We're seeing OEMs being more willing partners, wanting to bring data to the table, wanting to work with various partners and do ingestions. Hopefully that's going to be an erosion of sort of the silo approach, so we can sort of move into more open interoperability. So we're very excited about the changes we're seeing for sure. Seeing far more connected vehicles. Todd was also mentioning ELD, electronic logging. It's not devices, is it? Yes, I guess it is. So ELD mandate, it's in North America and the RFMS in Europe. It was an initial foray by regulators into wanting data from vehicles. And fortunately or unfortunately, this is whetting their appetite for more. And they realize the potential that data can have, how useful it is going to be as we move to renewables in particular, and the increased need for data for that, for power utilities, for fleets to understand which of their vehicles they need to charge overnight at the depot because of the route they're taking the next day. This is all facilitated through increased connectivity and data access.
Excellent. Thank you for those answers. So my second question is a little bit hypothetical, but we'll see where it goes. The future of passenger vehicles, especially as the shared mobility aspect of things advances, seem to align more to how fleets operate today. What areas of commonality are you seeing between passenger and commercial or transportation vehicles that live mostly in fleets?
Sure, I'll go ahead. You kick it up. Let's rotate each time. I like that.
That's good. A vehicle doesn't know if it's personal or commercial. It's part of a fleet. So we need to think about vehicles as platforms and what they enable. A lot of the interests and needs of personal vehicles is not that very different from that of commercial fleets, especially in a household where there are multiple vehicles. They tend not to be the same make and model as well. So again, to the wanting to have like a whole different set of apps and interfaces for different vehicles. When you think about it, even personal vehicles are part of a larger fleet. Look at insurance companies and how they have aftermarket devices. They're collecting data to monitor driver behavior and rating in order to use information to better back the insurance products, make it more cost effective for good drivers based off of measuring their behavior. So personal vehicles are already part of bigger fleets, more than people sort of realize and currently take for granted. The needs are the same. As mentioned, personal vehicles, again, as we move to electrification, are going to be part of regional fleets. You have to make sure that those power utilities can deliver enough electricity overnight or during the day to those vehicles. So there's really sort of the blurring the line, and as we move to also mobility as a service, where people have less personal ownership, I think that had a setback during COVID, but I think we're going to see that trend continue, especially in cities. And you need data to measure how much people are using the vehicles, if anything happened, where they are, their availability, their state. These sort of things become more and more important. Todd?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ted. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. One is because of where we're focused in the market right now. We're just launching our Keystone for Fleet product, which is an aftermarket retrofitted phone as a key end-to-end solution. And we're targeting the larger private and commercial fleets. I think there's definitely a use case down into the vehicle side of things, and our solution will support that in the coming months. But our target really has been around Class 7, 8, tractor trailers, semis, and trailers for shipping companies and other transportation companies. And there is definitely similarities in some ways but it's not a one-for-one. So, for example, in this class or this industry, there's not really a lot of impact for the over-the-road and the independent trucks. They tend to just be smaller operations that probably aren't going to need or see the value, in, at least initially, in it. But there's definitely an impact right now for large private and commercial fleets. So they have such large operations of people on the ground at facilities, people loading and tracking trailers and tractors. That having more and more data is just going to make a big difference and improve efficiencies. So we do see an advantage, especially around the tractor side of things, but not as much as the trailer. I think there's a lot of work to be done yet in how to bring the trailers into the mix. But the driver and the tractor are one unit going down the road that can provide a lot of valuable data to the end fleet customer or user. But it's when you compare it to automotive, that's similar. But on the trailer side, it's a whole different. I think there's either 5 or 10 times as many trailers as there are as tractors and semis. So it's a whole different ball of wax there to track. And of course, they're not powered and so on and so forth. So those are things that we see being developed over time in the future.
Great.
A little further to Todd's last point, I agree strongly that we have VSS, which is great. It's a huge enabler as far as data from vehicles. And we have other things, other assets, such trailers and who the drivers are. Drivers especially gets very sensitive from a privacy point of view, but these are, vehicles don't sort of move around this planet by themselves. They usually are carrying goods or people in them. So we have to sort of take the whole equation and having interactions with more cities and requiring services. So we have to sort of take some of these things into the broader landscape that vehicles fit into account in order to address that. And that's going to require that we start getting more involved in assets, being goods, services, and individuals.
Totally agree.
Great. Well, my third question sort of goes to that broader context that you just talked about, Ted, and that is commercial vehicles and fleets participate in a number of standards bodies already. And Covisa, as we presented this morning here, is not intended to be an island. We're an organization that's teaming and aligning and integrating standards and approaches that are created in other bodies. And so what standard organizations should be on Covisa's radar, and what sorts of dialogue should we have with those organizations as we think about the commercial vehicle and fleet industry?
Sure, I'll start this time then. Yeah, we've been involved in both spaces, so I'll give you our at least a perspective, one of the industries and organizations that are of value that we've seen, and I'm sure there's more coming forward. But for Covisa, I think NMFTA is one that we've been involved with over the years. There's a heavy focus on cybersecurity standards as it relates to telematics and fleets. The goal is to get common ways to design and implement the overall systems to prevent a major grid shutdown of those fleets. That's obviously the biggest concern that they have. And in that space, which is similar but different to traditional automotive, is there's a lot of different aftermarket players, and so different fleets will have different solutions that do things in a different way, although the end result may be ELD or additional data. But there's a lot more combinations out there versus in the traditional automotive market. The OEM sources the telematics supplier on all their vehicles. They just have one. In fleets, they don't. So that makes it a challenge, and that's why organizations like NMFTA are good places to come together. And when we participated, we've seen from A to Z of people participating, which is good. SAE, of course, is the common one that works. There's a cyber truck and there's a cyber auto that we support, and they bring in standards from a cyber and connectivity perspective. ATA, American Trucking Association, a big national trade association. Of course, we're focused on the U.S. right now, but we will expand our product line into Europe and other regions and get involved in those organizations. But the ATA is big here in North America. And TMC, Truck Maintenance Council and Diagnostics, they focus on really having technical meetings and designing standards that everyone can agree on, from everything from vehicle maintenance up to connectivity, which is a new topic that's being added there. The other one is HDMA, Heavy Trucking Manufacturers Association, where the supply base gets together to work on common ways of doing things for the commercial vehicle space. And then lastly, of course, is what are the OEMs up to? Always need to pull them into the loop and get their input as they put their roadmaps together.
So I agree with the list, especially around heavy trucks. Geotab's involved in quite a few of those, recognize most of them. I've participated in some meetings with quite a few. The Covisa initiative has focused more on light vehicles, but a lot of the data is the same. We're sharing the same roads with heavy trucks. And I've talked with a couple different heavy truck manufacturers as part of my outreach for standards development while at W3C and continuing, and very much would like to see more take place there. Because we have most of the data they need. Geotab is the commercial fleets that we manage or help people manage is a mix of heavy and light vehicles across different manufacturers. So I can attest to the commonality of much of the data points. There's quite a bit of uniqueness as well, as Todd was pointing out, including down to the individual fleets where they have different capabilities. Besides those, the ISO Extended Vehicle Neutral Server, which is lacking in data model, my understanding, and I know that Covisa is doing some great communication and coordination with them. AutoSAR as well to try and push this down the stack. SAE, along the same lines as Todd mentioned, would be great. ISO ITS, ISO Smart Cities would be good. Connected Car Consortium for digital key, because we need more than just data. We need various, like the Vehicle Service Catalog initiative that Covisa has. Besides this individual data points, we need to be able to call various named functions and have, as mentioned, common interoperability with vehicles instead of having to deal with different OEM APIs. W3C is still a good one for sure, especially around IoT standards and I had another one. Open Geospatial Consortium would be good too. As if we get more towards sort of routing or sort of, and also useful for autonomous vehicles as far as vehicle awareness and coordination, as far as where they are. I think OGC, Open Geospatial Consortium would be good too.
Excellent. Thank you for that. It's a great list. Okay, so the final question I have, and if we have time, we will open it up to the to the audience. Excuse me. What do you think are the biggest gaps evident in the current and future landscape of commercial vehicles, fleets, and transportation? And how should Covisa approach detailing those gaps and discussing common solutions to those gaps?
This is my turn to go first this time.
Yep.
A few of these already touched on. Besides light vehicles, we have heavy trucks, we have assets and individuals. So trying to figure out how it fits into the broader picture will be helpful. So that requires something that's not unique to automotive, and ideally trying to leverage some a bigger, broader effort around how to handle information, especially as we start attributing things to individuals. From a privacy perspective, would be very important. Bringing in heavy trucks, as mentioned. There's, in addition to sort of the data and APIs, there's all sorts of additional things that need to be worked out. How to manage compute resources if you're in a vehicle. What about connectivity and security reviews? What standards embedding process needs to be followed before an application can, a third party can run logic on the vehicle. Various things along those lines come to mind initially. Maybe you have a couple more thoughts, but I'll hand over to Todd and then maybe follow up a bit.
Yeah, I think, like any new industry, things go tend to go, once they start going, they tend to go fast in all kinds of different directions. And being a cybersecurity company, we always try to advise that industry suppliers and OEMs and customers design things with cybersecurity in mind, because it's really hard after the fact to add it. And when bad things happen, it's always a bit too late. So that's one of the key things to probably make sure is covered in some of the standards and designs of solutions and commercial fleet applications going forward. Obviously, standards are needed. We've listed a lot of those. Some of the challenges, probably a couple to point out, are the verticals always isolate topics and create gaps. So bridging those gaps is always a big challenge, and probably a big focus of Covisa is to bring different verticals that offer different but complementary solutions and products together, because there's a lot of commonality. Data is data, and cellular and telematics is at its core all the same. But the problems they're trying to solve, or the value they're trying to add, may be different, and trying to get folks to come together to look for common ways to do things really is what the end customer, especially in the fleet space, whether it's car sharing or up to the big fleet companies, wants. And I think so. I think a holistic approach is probably the right way to go, at least initially. Especially as I mentioned earlier, that we see there's so many players in the fleet space, from the fleet management companies to fleets themselves, to homegrown, to software that they can buy to manage the data and track the trucks, to a system like ours that allows assigning drivers to trucks. A lot of different players to meet a lot of different requirements and growth. So I think Covisa can be a big help and bringing those together. And also conflicts between SAE and TMC. So preventing that, right? Because there's an SAE portion that's going to live and support commercial vehicles, but then there's a TMC side of things, which is a different side of the house, and looking for ways to make sure they're in alignment and not conflicting each other would probably be helpful in this space.
Another thought, real quick to share. So the gaps and pain points need to come from the Covisa members as well. So while there's a laundry list that we're currently working on, what's next? What else should be coming up? This is the vision that the membership shares, and if there's a particular pain point or a particular solution that you have in mind, make sure to bring it forward. If we can find enough like-minded people, then it can be addressed. These don't sort of just operate in a bubble, and we need the Covisa community to be presenting ideas and solutions and bring them forward. Let us know what we should be working on.
Excellent.
Agreed.
Great. Well, that's a great wrap on this. Unfortunately, we won't have time for the audience to ask any questions, but very much appreciate you guys coming in virtually, and sorry for the mix up there at the beginning, but I think we recovered well. Very good answers to the questions, and it's a pleasure having you all here virtually, and thank you for your time. And audience, if you wouldn't mind giving them a round of applause.
Great. Thanks. Glad to participate, and hopefully in person next time.
Yes, absolutely.
A couple colleagues can buy beers. Wolf Bjorkengren and Christoph Ludwig. I believe we're both there.
Yep.
So
yep.
cheers.
Yeah, all right,
We're
cheers.
represented. They'll have beers for us, I guess, right? Good.
We'll all drink a beer for
All
you.
right.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you guys.
All right, cheers.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.